Unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetic. This is the Retail Warzone podcast.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Today I have the honor of actually speaking with Evan Seyfried's girlfriend, Amy. She's joining us from Ohio. We're going to hear her story, hear a little bit about, her and Evan's relationship, kind of where she stands now. So first of all, I want to say thank you, Amy, for being here. I really appreciate your time. Tell us a little bit about yourself, first off.
I wasn't prepared to talk about me. I like scrapbooking and crafting, and I like punk rock and cars and tattoos, and it's kind of, I guess, an eclectic mix of stuff. So
all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, crafting. I'm assuming you've spent some time in a Hobby Lobby.
Yes.
I was a store manager for Hobby Lobby for many, many years, so I understand the scrapbooking obsession. It is something else. So, So let's go ahead. Tell us a little bit about how you and Evan met.
He was transferred to the store that I work at as the dairy manager in, I think it was August of 2017. So we worked together. At that time I was a deli backup, so I'd be back in the dairy department breaking down trucks and just getting to know him, talk a lot. And he always had the greatest smile, and just the way he listened, you could tell he listened, he was really paying attention and he cared. And I think that was I don't know, something that you don't find a lot. It's definitely the start of a good friendship. He was only at my store for maybe 2 months before he got transferred to, I think it was the Marymount store then. He worked there for maybe 4 or 5 months and then transferred to the Milford store. So he had kept in contact after he had left, and eventually he started hanging out and going. It started he'd want to go try new restaurants, so we'd try out a new restaurant. Just I'm not a very adventurous eater. He definitely was adventurous. So I'm you got to tell me what's spicy so I know what not to eat. So that was always fun. We'd go to museums or just walking in the park. That was kind of how we just hung out and talked. It was. You could spend hours just talking about anything under the sun. Politics, religion, music, current events, sitcoms from the 80s. It was nothing was off topic. It was, and just kind of a comfortable, kind of, I don't know, a very comfortable kind of relationship where you feel like you could talk to them about anything, and he was a great listener.
Well, speaking of that, one thing I wanted to kind of get from you is share with us what kind of person he was, the things that he loved, and any of the little quirks that you found amazing, that people may not know about.
Yeah. So he was very kind, loved animals. He liked hiking and spending time with his family. That was the most important thing to him, was spending time with his family and going to Portland and spending time out there. They liked to go hiking. He always wanted to move there. He was planning that for the future. And he'd always send me pictures of where they were hiking at, or the cool architecture in the neighborhood. And it's just, he said there was just a different atmosphere out there. I've never been there myself, so I kind of had to take his word for it. And that was his favorite thing. He liked to cook a lot and liked to be, he liked food. Yeah. I always thought it was kind of funny because we worked at Kroger. So I'm the kind of person that just buys whatever groceries I can as I'm leaving because I don't want to go back to the store after I get off work. But I don't know if since you're not local to Cincinnati, you've probably never heard of it, but there's a store called Jungle Gyms, which is kind of like a theme park of grocery stores. It's kind of entertaining. And if you come to Cincinnati, you should check it out. He'd love to go there. We'd go there quite often. They have pretty much anything under the sun you could think of. So it's always getting something. And he was a great cook. He loved to cook. Always make me breakfast. It was awesome because I'm not the kind of person that eats breakfast normally. So that was nice. And collected belt buckles. That was his something that he was really into. He took great pride in his collection. Some of them were very intricate and beautiful, and then there was like the everyday ones that he would wear to every day. It's just kind of lost my thought there.
It's quite all right. I fully understand. So, I mean, this might be a little touchy. Do you recall like the last conversation you had with him?
Yeah. The last couple that we had, he was very stressed out about what was going on at work. And it's like I had known for a long time that it wasn't a good situation at work. So when he was stressed out, like I understood. But they kind of, our last couple of conversations, they didn't go well. Like he kind of picked a fight and I left crying. And so I feel like that's a lot of regret for me. Whereas like, I wish I had left, like I had said, I love you, as got off the phone, but I didn't realize it was going to be the last conversation.
Well, it seemed like in talking with you, he did a pretty good job of not overburdening you with like all the details of everything that was going on with him. And I think that's admirable. I think, that he didn't want to take that stress and dump it on you as well.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of it. He was also concerned that the people that were coming after him would also come after me because I work for Kroger's. And, I kind of feel like he might have been right on that. But I wish I had known more. Like, I feel like if I had known more, I would have been able to handle things differently. And there'd be a lot less regret. Maybe I could have been more supportive if I had known. And maybe he would still be alive.
Well, it's got to be, I mean, obviously the entire situation was difficult, but when the news broke as to what happened, I mean, were you at work when you found out?
I didn't find out about his death until 2 days later because we kind of had this set routine where like we both usually were off on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That week I was working 6 days because my boss was out sick. So my only day off that week was Thursday. And so our routine was I would drop my kids off at school and then I just show up at his house around 7:30. So when I got there, his car wasn't there. There was another car in the driveway, and I'm like, well, maybe he's getting his car worked on. So I knocked, and the door always stuck. So I heard someone fumbling with the lock and trying to get the door open, and they peeked their hand out the blind, and was like, just a minute. And I'm like, it looks like his hand, but it's not. And then the door opened to his dad and his brother looking at me, and I had never met them before. They look very alike. It was very surreal to expect one face and find two others that look the same but different. And they told me what had happened. And it was the worst shock you could imagine. It's yeah. And then, as far as like the news about the lawsuit, like, because I didn't know everything that had gone on, I just knew little bits and pieces from here and there, and like what he would tell me when the lawsuit hit. That was, I think, in July, maybe. So it had been a couple of months. Reading the lawsuit on the internet, and just everything that was in there that I had no clue about. And it was like a punch to the gut. Like, I couldn't believe, like, for one, that it had happened, but also that, like, he had kept that all to himself and didn't tell me. And like, I feel like maybe it would have been a little easier to bear if I had known, but I know that was kind of his. He didn't want to put that burden on me also. So.
Well, when Erica reached out to me about all of this, and she sent me, the link to the lawsuit, and she told me in the email, she's like, when you read this, you're not going to be able to stop reading, and B, it was just unimaginable. I mean, same. Yeah. I mean, I obviously I didn't know the family personally at all, and I knew a little bit about the story, from reading about it prior. But when I read that lawsuit, I'm like, oh my God. And, just the depths that these people went to, to do whatever harm they could to him, it was just unimaginable and terrifying that people could do that.
Yeah. And working for the same company, I even worked at that store for a little while, about 8 years previous. But it's like, I could not imagine that actually happening in the company that I work for. And to know that, like, I mean, sure, everybody has problems with people that they work with, but that is the extent to which that they came after him, like, that it comes outside of the store and outside of the workplace it's unfathomable.
Yeah, I mean, it was next level. I don't really think there's actual words to describe it. I mean, I think bullying, true, but there's got to be, a bigger way to show, how awful this really, really was. Now, I had asked you before, previously when we were messaging back and forth, have you felt any kind of different treatment from management? Let's say, from the initial event when Evan passed up until now, as you start getting into like court proceedings and whatnot, do you feel like they're kind of hands off on you and kind of treat you a little different because of maybe where you lie within the scope of everything?
I think possibly a little bit. I know, like, at the time that he died, my store manager, like, was someone that I got along with fairly well. And I think at that point, like, the pieces of the puzzle weren't, like, all the way put together. So I hadn't really talked in detail publicly about our relationship. So a lot of people didn't put together the pieces that the dairy manager that died at Milford was my boyfriend who had died, and the reason why I'm walking around the store crying like a zombie all the time. And but so at that point, like, all my coworkers have been very supportive. Like, even we've got new store manager now, and she's pretty supportive too. As when it gets higher up into like the district management, like, I don't deal with them very often. I kind of prefer it that way.
Don't we all?
I just, yeah. So it's hard to say for sure. I don't know if, you know, sometimes I think that they're targeting me, but sometimes I think that like, maybe it's just me being overly sensitive. So I can't give a for sure answer. I feel like, at this point, sometimes maybe they're kind of leaning away from me because I am like, I'm not involved in the lawsuit, but I have been in contact with the lawyer. So I do like, I have that connection and just to fall back on if I felt like they were directly targeting me, but right now I don't think they are.
Well, I think it's really, really good, especially for you, that, you've got a nice support group of employees around you that have been supportive. I mean, obviously that was lacking in the Milford location. And, that's got to help tremendously with your day-to-day mental health, trying to navigate through this. And, especially coming up, it's my understanding, his birthday is very soon. And,
it's on the 11th. So that's, just a week and a half from now.
What do you think the biggest lesson to be learned from all of this is? Like if there was something you could say to anybody that's watching or listening, when we air this, I mean, what do you really feel like the takeaway should be?
There's so many. I guess just a lot of it is, think about the people that you're interacting with. Try to be nice. Don't be a dick.
Right.
That's kind of basic. But then at the same time, like, think about the motives that people have behind what they're doing. That's kind of something that, I guess you need to know who you're dealing with a lot. I want to say, like, talk to people and reach out, because a lot of people are going through the same thing. I don't know, like, obviously HR isn't a help. Sometimes your union's not even a good help, but there's, I guess, trying to find the people that are going to be helpful. Even if it's outside of the company, and hopefully, like, with going forward, I'm hoping that we'll be able to, make it easier to find that kind of help for people that have an issue in their workplace and need some support. So hopefully that, things don't get overwhelming.
I agree. Yeah. I think companies could do a lot more, whether it be, and it really seems at this point it needs to be an outside entity, because obviously with HR and whatnot, I mean, they're in place to make sure, companies keep moving and don't get sued, but companies seem to really shy away from promoting an external option of help. And, your point is 100% valid. If these things were more easily accessible and not something that you just on a whim have to jump on the internet and try to look for, A, it most likely could have prevented this, and B, it'll help prevent it from happening in the future.
Yeah. And, like, I think that the union is supposed to be there to be your voice and to back you up. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed also. Is I don't know if it's the entire union, but they're kind of what I am experiencing lately. It feels like they're not any more accountable than the company itself. They're not helpful. Like, I don't know. So I hope that something changes there also, like, because that's what they're supposed to be doing is backing us up and being our support. And in this case, especially, it has failed and not done what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I think, one thing that I can think unions could do is, I mean, there really has to be, and we have seen it, grow, especially during the pandemic, part of what a union does. I mean, we've got to start, at the ground level, making sure that mental health is something that is covered and something that is taken care of. There's such a stigma with that, with a lot of businesses and whatnot. They try to identify, what is mental health? And, there's lots of studies and lots of people out there who can educate them on that. And I think that should really first and foremost be on the tip of everybody's tongues when it comes to, from a union rep representing, employees. That needs to be, in the front. And I think as an industry as a whole, we lack so much in that. Because face it, the past 2 years, coming up on 3, have been hard on a lot of people.
Yeah. And from a personal standpoint, like mental health care is hard to come by. It's not easy to find good places for it. And I think it is getting easier a little bit with the internet. But to find a provider in your area, like to meet with face to face, is not always easy, and dealing with insurance that's definitely difficult. So there's a lot to be. I guess it needs to be like a priority for all of society, really, because mental health affects everyone.
100%. So what I'd like to do, all right, is, we're going to close this up. And, once again, I want to thank you. But what I want to do in closing this, and this is your floor, anything that you feel you would like to say, whether it be about Evan, your own personal self or whatnot, I'm allowing you, the closing words here, ma'am.
Ooh, a lot of pressure. I guess I just want everybody to know, what a kind and caring person Evan was. He had so many passions. We had plans for the future. And he wanted to help people. And I just, it was taken away from, it's a great loss for everyone, his death. And I just wanted everyone to know kind of who he was as a person, and that he will be missed by so many people, even though, in life, he was very private and kept to himself a lot, but he was a very good person. And I think his death has impacted a lot of people, and hopefully they will, it will be beneficial. Something good will come from it.
Excellent. And I think it will. I believe that, his story is important. I am one of these people that, as I've dove into this, I think it's extremely unfair. It hasn't gained national attention. I think this is something that should have been on the nightly news, especially, with how things have happened to essential workers and things like that. This is something that should have been out in the forefront. And, it's important to celebrate who Evan was, because Evan's not Kroger, and that's kind of one of the things that we've all talked about, is we shouldn't let that define him. And I don't think any of us will. And, everybody just needs to keep fighting the good fight, and don't let what happened to him, fall through the cracks. Use it for positive change. Use it to make sure it doesn't happen again. Use it to make sure that these companies are held accountable. And hopefully, that's where, we'll go with all of this. And, I want to offer my condolences. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know it's got to be incredibly difficult for you and the family as well. I really am in awe at, the community support around Justice for Evan. I think it's an amazing thing. And, I'll tell you, like I tell everybody else, if you ever need anything, you just reach out to me. and we'll do what we can. And, you know, later on as this thing progresses, if you feel like there's more I want to say, you just let me know, Amy. I'll give you the platform to say whatever you need to say.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll be talking with you soon. You know, tonight you can kind of think about what we did here. And if there's anything you want changed, you just let me know and we'll go from there. And what I'll do is when it's finished and I edit it and everything, I will send it to you, you know, before it goes live so you can watch it. And then if you have any critiques or anything, you just let me know and I'll fix what you need me to fix. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, Amy. You have as good a day as you can. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.